I once met a man who transformed from a homeless drug addict to a millionaire entrepreneur in just 3 years. When I asked him what changed everything, he said something that still gives me chills. Dr. Munroe, the day I stopped seeing myself as a victim and started seeing myself as a king in training, that's when my whole world shifted. Let me tell you why that mindset is everything. Because what I'm about to share with you in the next hour is going to completely revolutionize how you see yourself, your challenges, and your unlimited potential. You see, my friend, by the end of this conversation we're having right here, you're going to possess the exact mindset that transforms ordinary people into unstoppable forces. This is the same mental framework that has helped millions break through their limitations and step into their true potential. And I need you to understand something right from the start. This isn't theory. This isn't philosophy. This is proven, practical wisdom that has changed the trajectory of countless lives across every continent on this planet. Now, I know you might be feeling stuck despite having dreams and ambitions burning inside your heart. Maybe you're struggling with that voice of self-doubt that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" Every time you dare to dream bigger, perhaps you're comparing yourself to others on social media and feeling like you're falling behind in the race of life. You might be that person who keeps starting things with great enthusiasm but somehow never follows through to completion. Or maybe, just maybe, you've bought into the lie that your circumstances, your background, your education level, or your past mistakes define what's possible for your future. But I'm here to tell you something that's going to shatter those limiting beliefs forever. As someone who has counseled presidents and prime ministers, taught millions of people worldwide, and spent over 4 decades studying the principles of human potential and achievement, I've seen the difference between those who break through and those who break down. I've witnessed ordinary people become extraordinary. I've watched broke individuals become billionaires. I've seen the defeated become champions. I've observed the overlooked become overcomers. And the difference, my friend, isn't talent, luck, connections, or even natural ability. The difference is mindset. The difference is how they think about themselves, their challenges, and their possibilities. Unlike those motivational speeches that pump you up temporarily like a sugar rush that crashes by afternoon, this isn't about feeling good. This is about thinking correctly. This isn't about temporary emotional highs. This is about permanent mental transformation. We're going to rewire how you see yourself, your challenges, and your future in a way that makes success inevitable, not just possible. We're going to restructure your thinking patterns so that breakthrough becomes your normal, not your exception. Now, here's what most people get completely wrong, and this might shock you. They think success is about positive thinking. No, my friend, it's about correct thinking. There's a massive difference. Positive thinking says everything will be fine. Correct thinking says I have the power to make everything fine. Positive thinking ignores reality. Correct thinking transforms reality. They think confidence is about feeling ready for the challenge. No, it's about thinking like royalty regardless of how you feel. They think breakthrough is about changing your circumstances. Wrong again. It's about changing your perspective first. And then your circumstances have no choice but to follow. You see, most people are walking around with what I call chicken coop consciousness. They're living below their privileges. They're thinking smaller than their purpose. They're reacting like victims when they were created to respond like victors. And the tragedy is that they don't even know. They're doing it because it's become so normal, so accepted, so comfortable. But comfort, my friend, is the enemy of greatness. Comfort is where dreams go to die. Comfort is the graveyard of potential. And if you're comfortable with where you are right now, if you're not hungry for more, if you're not dissatisfied with mediocrity, then this message might not be for you. But if there's a fire burning in your belly, if there's a voice whispering, there's got to be more than this. If you feel like you're capable of so much more than what you're currently experiencing, then keep listening, because transformation is about to begin. Let me paint you a picture that will change how you see yourself forever, and I want you to really see this in your mind's eye. There was once a farmer who was walking through the wilderness when he discovered an eagle's egg. Now, this farmer had never seen an eagle's egg before, but he thought, this looks like a really big chicken egg. So he brought it home to his chicken coop. He placed that eagle egg right there with all the chicken eggs under the mother hen, and when all those eggs hatched, including that eagle egg, something fascinating happened. That baby eagle grew up surrounded by chickens. Day after day, week after week, month after month, this eagle would watch the chickens peck at the ground for seeds and insects. It watched them scratch in the dirt with their feet, looking for food. It observed them flap their wings just enough to fly a few feet up to their roosting posts. And because that's all this eagle saw, because that was its environment, because that was its normal, that's exactly what it learned to do. Every single day, this magnificent creature that was designed to soar above the mountains would peck at the ground like a chicken. It would scratch in the dirt like a chicken. It would flap its wings just like a chicken, barely getting off the ground. This eagle was living a chicken's life because it had adopted a chicken's mindset. It was settling for chicken thinking when it had eagle potential. Now here's where the story gets powerful. One day, this eagle happened to look up into the vast blue sky, and there, soaring high above the clouds, moving with such incredible grace and power, was a magnificent bird. This creature was riding the wind currents, diving and climbing with effortless beauty, commanding the sky like it owned it. The eagle had never seen anything like this before. Its heart began to race. Something deep inside its DNA began to stir. It felt a longing it had never experienced before. The eagle turned to one of the chickens beside it and asked, "What is that beautiful, powerful creature soaring up there?" The chicken looked up briefly, squinted its eyes, and said with a dismissive tone, "Oh, that's an eagle, the king of all birds, the master of the sky." But don't even waste your time thinking about it. Don't get any crazy ideas. You and I, we're just chickens. We belong down here on the ground. We're meant to scratch and peck. Flying high like that? That's not for us. That's for special birds. We need to stay realistic about what we can and can't do. So that eagle, convinced by the chickens around it, convinced by its environment, convinced by the voices of limitation, went back to pecking and scratching. It suppressed that stirring in its heart. It ignored that calling in its spirit. It settled for the chicken life, living its entire existence on the ground, never spreading its wings to their full span, never discovering the power that was lying dormant within it, never experiencing the joy of soaring above the storms. My friend, that eagle died thinking it was a chicken. But here's the truth that will set you free today. That eagle was never a chicken. Not for one single day. Not for one single moment. It was always an eagle. The only thing that kept it on the ground was not its ability, not its potential, not its design, but how it saw itself. It was held captive, not by circumstances, but by perception. It was imprisoned not by reality, but by wrong thinking. Are you living like a chicken when you were born to be an eagle? Are you pecking around in the dirt of mediocrity when you have wings to soar above every storm? Are you listening to the voices of chickens who tell you to stay grounded when your heart is calling you to fly? Are you accepting chicken limitations when you have eagle possibilities? I need you to understand this. You are not a chicken. I don't care what your current circumstances look like. I don't care what people have told you about yourself. I don't care what failures you've experienced in your past. I don't care how many times you've been rejected, overlooked, or counted out. You are an eagle. You were born to soar. You were created to conquer. You were designed to dominate every challenge that comes your way. Now let me tell you about the day this became real for me, because I want you to see that I wasn't always teaching these principles. There was a time when I was living with chicken consciousness, and maybe my story will help you see yourself differently. I grew up in Nassau, Bahamas, and we were poor. I mean really, really poor. Not just we don't have extra money for luxuries poor, but we don't know where the next meal is coming from poor. I watched my precious mother work 3 jobs just to put food on our table. I would see her leave early in the morning, cleaning houses for wealthy families, then rush to her afternoon job at a hotel, and then work late into the night at a restaurant. This woman, who deserved to be treated like the queen she was working herself to exhaustion just to survive. And my father, this man who should have been living like the king he was created to be, was struggling every single day, taking whatever work he could find, often coming home defeated and discouraged. As a young boy watching all this, I began to develop what I now recognize as chicken thinking. I started believing that poverty was our portion. I thought struggle was our inheritance. I assumed that working multiple jobs just to survive was normal for people like us. I began to accept that there were haves and have-nots in this world, and we were clearly in the have-not category. I remember walking through the wealthy neighborhoods in Nassau, looking at the beautiful homes, the nice cars, the well-dressed families, and thinking that's for them, not for us. I remember seeing successful business people and thinking they must have something I don't have. I remember watching people on television living abundant lives and assuming that's nice for some people, but that's not realistic for someone from my background. I was living in what I now call a chicken coop mindset. I had eagle DNA, but I was thinking chicken thoughts. I had royal blood running through my veins, but I was accepting peasant living. I had unlimited potential locked inside me, but I was focused on my limitations. But one day, and I remember this day like it was yesterday, I was in the library reading about successful entrepreneurs, world changers, and history makers. As I was reading story after story, something began to hit me like lightning bolts of revelation. These people didn't start with more money than me. They didn't come from better families than mine. They didn't have better educational opportunities than I had. Many of them, and this shocked me, came from worse circumstances than mine. Andrew Carnegie came from extreme poverty in Scotland. Oprah Winfrey was born into rural poverty and faced incredible hardships as a child. Sam Walton started with almost nothing and built Walmart into the world's largest retailer. Colonel Sanders was broke at 65 when he started KFC. What was the difference? What did they have that I didn't have? Then it hit me like a revelation from heaven itself. The only difference was how they saw themselves and what they believed was possible for their lives. They had developed eagle consciousness while I was still trapped in chicken thinking. They were thinking kingdom thoughts while I was stuck with slave mentality. They were focused on their purpose while I was obsessed with my problems. That day, sitting in that library, I realized I had been thinking too small. I had been seeing myself as a victim of my circumstances instead of a victor over them. I had been focusing on what I didn't have instead of what I could create. I had been looking at my current reality as my permanent destiny instead of my temporary situation. Right there in that moment, I made a decision that changed everything. I decided to stop seeing myself as poor Myles from Nassau and start seeing myself as a future world influencer. I stopped saying I can't afford it and started asking, how can I afford it? I stopped saying I don't have the connections and started asking, how can I create the connections I need? I stopped saying, people like me don't do things like that, and started declaring, I'm going to be the first person from my background to do exactly that. The moment I changed my self-image, everything in my life began to shift. My opportunities changed because my perspective changed. My relationships changed because my expectations changed. My results changed because my thinking changed. I went from being a broke young man with no prospects to traveling the world, teaching millions, writing best-selling books, and influencing nations. Not because my circumstances changed first, but because my consciousness changed first. And you know what happened? People started asking me, Myles, how did you get so lucky? How did you get all these opportunities? But it wasn't luck, my friend. It was the law of attraction, but not the way most people understand it. I wasn't attracting things by just thinking positive thoughts. I was attracting opportunities by thinking like the person I was created to be instead of accepting the limitations of where I happened to be born. Just last year, I met a young woman who proved this principle again, and her story will inspire you. She came to one of my seminars broken, discouraged, and barely surviving. She was working 3 part-time jobs just to pay rent in a tiny apartment she shared with 2 roommates. She had been laid off from her full-time job 6 months earlier and had been struggling ever since. When she approached me after my message, tears were streaming down her face. She said, Dr. Munroe, I feel like I'm drowning in my circumstances. No matter how hard I work, I can't seem to get ahead. Nothing ever goes right for me. Every time I try to start something, obstacles appear. Every time I save a little money, some emergency comes up and wipes it out. I'm starting to think that some people are just meant to struggle, and maybe I'm one of them. I looked at this beautiful young lady, and I could see the eagle trapped inside the chicken coop of her thinking. I said, my daughter, you're not drowning in your circumstances. You're drowning in your thinking. You're not a victim of your situation. You're a victim of your perspective. The same situations that are defeating you right now are the exact same situations that could be developing you if you would just change how you see them. I spent the next hour working with her, helping her identify the limiting beliefs that were keeping her grounded. We talked about her dreams, her gifts, her passions. We discussed what she would do if she knew she couldn't fail. We explored what her life could look like if she stopped focusing on her problems and started focusing on her purpose. Within just 6 months of changing her mindset, this young woman had started her own online business. She had stopped seeing herself as someone who needed a job and started seeing herself as someone who could create jobs. Within a year, she had 3 employees and was generating more income in a month than she used to make in 6 months at those part-time jobs. Today, just 2 years later, she's helping other women break free from poverty thinking and create wealth from their gifts and talents. What changed? Did she suddenly get lucky? Did someone give her money? Did she win the lottery? No, none of that happened. She simply changed her mindset from victim to victor, from chicken to eagle, from problem-focused to purpose-driven. She stopped accepting her current situation as her final destination and started seeing it as her launching pad. Now, here's what those stories teach us about the unstoppable mindset, and I want you to pay close attention because these principles will revolutionize your life if you apply them. The first principle is this: you must shift from slave mindset to kingdom mindset. This is the foundation of everything else we're going to talk about. You see, a slave wakes up in the morning thinking about what he can't do, what he doesn't have, what's wrong with his situation. A king wakes up thinking about what he will accomplish, what he will create, what he will conquer today. A slave sees problems and gets overwhelmed, paralyzed, defeated. A king sees problems and gets creative, strategic, innovative. A slave asks, why me? Why is this happening to me? A king asks, how can I use this situation to become stronger, wiser, better? When you have kingdom mindset, you understand something that most people never grasp. You are royalty, not because of what you've accomplished so far, not because of your current bank account, not because of your educational degrees, but because of how you were created. You were designed for dominance, not defeat. You were fashioned for fulfillment, not failure. You were created to be a solution provider, not a problem collector. The Bible says we are kings and priests unto God. That means royalty runs in your bloodline. That means you have royal DNA. That means you were born to rule and reign in life, not to be ruled and reigned over by circumstances, other people's opinions, or temporary setbacks. When challenges come your way, and trust me, they will come, you don't react like a victim. You respond like royalty. You don't panic like a peasant. You plan like a king. You don't get bitter like someone who's been defeated. You get better like someone who's being developed. Let me tell you how this looks practically in real life. When a slave-minded person loses their job, they say, this always happens to me. I'm so unlucky. Life is against me. I'll never get ahead. Why do bad things always happen to good people? They focus on the unfairness, the disappointment, the fear of what might happen next. But when a kingdom-minded person loses their job, they say, this is an opportunity for something better. This is God closing one door to open a bigger one. This is the universe forcing me out of my comfort zone so I can level up. How can I use this transition to discover gifts I didn't know I had? How can I use this time to start that business I've been putting off? How can I use this experience to help other people going through the same thing? The difference is not in what happens to them. The difference is not in their circumstances. The difference is in how they interpret what happens to them. Your interpretation determines your response. Your response determines your results. Your results determine your reputation. Your reputation determines your opportunities. Change your interpretation, and you change the entire trajectory of your life. When you think like royalty, you approach every situation differently. Instead of saying, I hope this works out, you say, I'm going to make this work out. Instead of saying, I hope people will like me, you say, I'm going to add so much value that people can't help but be drawn to me. Instead of saying, I hope I can find a way, you say, I'm going to create a way. Kingdom mindset doesn't mean you ignore reality or pretend problems don't exist. It means you see reality through the lens of possibility instead of the lens of limitation. It means you acknowledge your problems but refuse to bow down to them. It means you respect your challenges but refuse to be intimidated by them. But thinking like royalty is just the beginning. The second principle that makes you unstoppable is this: you must shift from being problem-focused to being purpose-driven. This is where most people get stuck, and it's probably where you've been stuck if you're honest with yourself. Most people wake up every morning thinking about their problems. They think about their bills, their relationship issues, their health concerns, their job stress, their financial pressures. They go to bed thinking about their problems. They talk about their problems. They research their problems. They become experts on their problems. And guess what happens? Their problems grow bigger and bigger until they become giants in their minds. But you must wake up thinking about your purpose. You must go to bed thinking about your purpose. You must talk about your purpose. You must research your purpose. You must become an expert on your purpose. And when you do this, something miraculous happens. Your problems don't disappear, but they become stepping stones to your purpose instead of roadblocks to your progress. Your problems are temporary, but your purpose is permanent. Your problems are seasonal, but your purpose is eternal. Your problems are smaller than your purpose when you see them correctly. In fact, every problem you're facing right now is actually trying to push you toward your purpose, develop you for your destiny, and prepare you for the next level of your life. I want you to understand something powerful that will change how you see every difficulty you encounter. Every problem you face is actually trying to reveal your purpose. Every obstacle is trying to unveil your opportunity. Every setback is trying to set you up for something greater. Every test is trying to develop your testimony. Every mess is trying to become your message. But you'll only see this when you're purpose-driven instead of problem-focused. When you're problem-focused, all you see are the obstacles. The mountains look too high. The valleys look too deep. The journey looks too difficult. When you're purpose-driven, you see opportunities hidden inside those obstacles. The mountains become platforms to see farther. The valleys become places to grow stronger. The difficult journey becomes the adventure that develops your character. When you're problem-focused, you ask, why is this happening to me? When you're purpose-driven, you ask, what is this preparing me for? When you're problem-focused, you feel like a victim of circumstances. When you're purpose-driven, you feel like a victor in training. Your purpose becomes your internal GPS system. When you know where you're going, every detour makes sense. When you understand your destination, every delay becomes preparation. When you're clear on your purpose, every problem becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you're struggling financially right now. If you're problem-focused, you see lack, limitation, fear, stress. You might say, I don't have enough money. I can't pay my bills. I'm behind on everything. This is hopeless. But if you're purpose-driven, you see the same financial challenge as preparation for your purpose. You might say, this financial pressure is teaching me to be more resourceful. This struggle is developing my creativity. This season is preparing me to help other people who will face similar challenges. This difficulty is forcing me to discover income streams I never would have explored if I was comfortable. This problem is actually pushing me toward my purpose of helping others achieve financial freedom. Same situation, completely different perspective. One perspective makes you feel powerless and defeated. The other perspective makes you feel powerful and determined. Which perspective do you think will lead to better results? And here's where it gets really powerful. The third principle that makes you truly unstoppable. You must shift from victimhood to ownership. This is the game changer, my friend. This is what separates the champions from the complainers, the overcomers from the overwhelmed, the successful from the struggling. Most people give away their power by blaming their circumstances, their past, their parents, their education, their race, their gender, their age, other people, the government, the economy, or just plain bad luck. They spend their energy pointing fingers instead of finding solutions. They invest their time explaining why they can't instead of discovering how they can. But unstoppable people take 100% responsibility for their response to everything that happens to them. Notice I didn't say they take responsibility for everything that happens to them. Some things are completely outside your control. You didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose where you were born. You didn't choose your natural talents or abilities. You can't control other people's actions. You can't control economic conditions or natural disasters. But here's what is always within your control, and this is where your power lies: how you respond to what happens to you. Your response is your responsibility, and your response determines whether you become bitter or better, whether you become a victim or a victor, whether you stay stuck or become unstoppable. When you take ownership of your response, something miraculous happens. You get your power back. You see, when you blame others, you give them your power. You're essentially saying, my success or failure depends on what they do or don't do. When you blame circumstances, you give your power to things outside your control. You're saying, I can't succeed unless conditions are perfect. But when you take ownership of your response, you reclaim your power to change your situation. You're saying, regardless of what happens to me or around me, I have the power to choose my response, and my response will determine my results. The most successful people I know have learned to transform their pain into their platform. They don't hide from their struggles. They use their struggles. They don't run from their tests. They turn their tests into their testimony. They don't waste their wounds. They turn their wounds into wisdom. They understand that every mess can become a message, every trial can become a triumph, and every obstacle can become an opportunity to help others. Think about Oprah Winfrey. She could have remained a victim of childhood abuse, poverty, and racism. Instead, she took ownership of her response to those experiences and used them to create a platform that has helped millions of people worldwide. Think about Tyler Perry. He could have remained bitter about his abusive childhood. Instead, he transformed his pain into entertainment that brings joy and hope to millions. Think about Nick Vujicic, the man born without arms and legs. He could have spent his life feeling sorry for himself and blaming God for his condition. Instead, he took ownership of his response and became one of the most inspiring motivational speakers in the world, helping millions of people overcome their challenges. What about you? What pain are you carrying that could become your platform? What struggle are you hiding that could become your strength? What test are you running from that could become your testimony? What wound are you nursing that could become your wisdom? Let me show you how all three of these principles work together in perfect harmony, because when you combine kingdom mindset with purpose-driven thinking and complete ownership, you become virtually unstoppable. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. When you have kingdom mindset, challenges don't discourage you anymore because you know you're royalty facing a temporary test. You don't see yourself as a poor little victim that bad things happen to. You see yourself as a king or queen who is being developed through adversity. When you're purpose-driven, problems don't overwhelm you anymore because you see them as stepping stones to your destiny. You don't ask, why me? You ask, what is this preparing me for? You don't waste energy fighting against your challenges. You invest energy learning from your challenges. When you take ownership, setbacks don't defeat you anymore because you take full responsibility for your response and use every experience as fuel for your future. You don't blame others for your lack of progress. You look in the mirror and ask, what do I need to change about how I'm thinking, speaking, or acting? These three principles create a powerful synergy. Kingdom mindset gives you the identity. Purpose-driven thinking gives you the direction. Ownership gives you the power. Together, they make you unstoppable. Now, let's make this practical starting tomorrow morning, because knowledge without application is just entertainment. I want to give you 3 daily exercises that will rewire your thinking patterns and transform you from the inside out. These aren't just positive thinking exercises. These are consciousness-changing practices that will literally restructure your neural pathways and create new patterns of thought. The first one I call the mirror declaration, and I want you to do this every single morning without fail. Before you check your phone, before you think about your problems, before you get distracted by the urgent things of the day, I want you to stand in front of your mirror and have a conversation with yourself. This might feel strange at first, but stay with me. Look yourself directly in the eyes and say these words with conviction and power. Good morning, king, or good morning, queen. I am not a chicken. I am an eagle. I was born to soar, not scratch in the dirt of mediocrity. I am royalty. created for dominance, designed for success, destined for greatness. Today I will think like a king, speak like a king, act like a king, and respond like a king to everything that happens. Continue with, my circumstances do not define me. My purpose drives me. I take full responsibility for my response to everything that happens today, and I will use every experience to become better, stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable. I am not a victim of my past. I am the architect of my future. I am not limited by my current reality. I am empowered by my unlimited potential. Finish with, every challenge that comes my way today is an opportunity in disguise. Every problem is a stepping stone to my purpose. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. I was born for this. I was created for this. Nothing can stop what God has destined for my life. Now, why does this work so powerfully? Because your words shape your world. Your declarations create your reality. Your mouth is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. When you speak something consistently with conviction, you begin to believe it. When you believe it, you begin to act on it. When you act on it, you begin to experience it. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful dreaming. This is correct thinking spoken out loud until it becomes your reality. You're literally programming your subconscious mind with truth about who you are and what you're capable of. You're overriding years of negative programming with positive, purpose-driven declarations. Most people wake up and immediately fill their minds with news, social media, other people's opinions, and all the problems of the world. But you're going to start each day by filling your mind with truth about your identity, your potential, and your purpose. You're going to set the tone for your entire day by declaring who you are before the world tries to tell you who you're not. The second daily exercise is what I call the problem flip, and this will completely revolutionize how you handle every challenge that comes your way. Instead of getting discouraged when obstacles appear, instead of feeling defeated when things don't go according to plan, you're going to have a new strategy. When any problem, challenge, setback, or difficulty arises, I want you to immediately ask yourself these 3 transformational questions. Don't let yourself get emotional. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't let yourself slip into victim thinking. Instead, grab hold of these 3 questions like lifelines. Question number 1. What is this situation teaching me? Every challenge is a classroom. Every problem is a professor. Every difficulty is designed to develop something in you that you need for your future. Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's developing your problem-solving skills. Maybe it's showing you resources you didn't know you had. Maybe it's revealing strengths you didn't know you possess. Maybe it's teaching you to trust God at a deeper level. Question number 2. How is this preparing me for my purpose? Remember, you're not just randomly experiencing difficulties. Everything in your life is connected to your destiny. This challenge you're facing right now is actually preparing you for something greater. It's developing your character for the next level. It's building your testimony for future ministry. It's creating your platform for helping others. It's strengthening your faith for bigger challenges ahead. Question number 3. How can I use this experience to help someone else later? Your current pain is your future platform. Your present struggle is your upcoming strength. Your today's test is your tomorrow's testimony. How can you take what you're learning right now and use it to encourage, inspire, or assist someone else who will face similar challenges? These 3 questions will completely transform how you see every challenge. Instead of seeing problems, you'll start seeing lessons. Instead of seeing obstacles, you'll start seeing opportunities. Instead of feeling like a victim, you'll feel like a student in the university of life, getting stronger and wiser with every test. Let me give you an example. Let's say you lose your job unexpectedly. Instead of panicking, getting depressed, or feeling like a victim, you ask the 3 questions. What is this teaching me? Maybe it's teaching you not to depend completely on one source of income. How is this preparing me for my purpose? Maybe it's pushing you to finally start that business you've been dreaming about. How can I use this to help others? Maybe you'll become a coach who helps other people transition from employment to entrepreneurship. The 3rd daily exercise is your purpose check-in, and this is what will keep you moving in the right direction long term. Success isn't just about having the right mindset for a day or a week. It's about staying aligned with your purpose consistently over months and years. This weekly practice will ensure you don't get distracted by the urgent and lose focus on the important. Every Sunday evening, I want you to set aside 30 minutes for what I call your purpose check-in. Find a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. Get a journal or notebook and ask yourself these powerful questions. Be honest with your answers. Don't write what you think you should write. Write what's really true. First question, am I moving toward my purpose or just moving? Are your daily activities aligned with your bigger vision, or are you just staying busy? Are you making progress toward your dreams, or are you just going through the motions? Are you being intentional about your choices, or are you just reacting to whatever comes your way? Second question, what adjustments do I need to make to stay on track? What habits do you need to start or stop? What relationships do you need to invest in or distance yourself from? What activities do you need to add to or remove from your schedule? What skills do you need to develop? What knowledge do you need to acquire? Third question, how can I serve my purpose better this week than I did last week? Your purpose isn't just about what you get, it's about what you give. How can you add more value? How can you help more people? How can you make a greater impact? How can you use your gifts and talents more effectively? This weekly practice keeps you purpose-driven instead of just busy. It keeps you focused on what matters most instead of getting distracted by what's urgent but not important. It ensures that you're building a life of significance, not just success. But here's what I want you to understand about these three practices. They're not magic formulas that will instantly transform your life overnight. They're disciplines that will gradually rewire your thinking patterns and restructure your mental habits. The key is consistency. It's better to do them imperfectly every day than to do them perfectly once in a while. Your brain is like a muscle. The more you exercise it with correct thinking, the stronger it becomes. The more you feed it with truth about your identity and potential, the more it will operate from that truth. The more you program it with purpose-driven questions, the more it will automatically look for purpose-driven answers. Now, I want to address something that some of you might be thinking right now. You might be saying, Dr. Munroe, this all sounds great, but you don't understand my situation. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know how many times I've tried and failed. You don't know how many people have rejected me. You don't know how broke I am. You don't know how old I am. You don't know how young I am. You don't know how little education I have. Let me tell you something with love and authority. Your situation is not unique. Your struggles are not uncommon. Your challenges are not insurmountable. I've counseled people from every walk of life, every background, every age group, every education level, every economic status. I've seen people overcome obstacles that would make your challenges look like stepping stones. I've seen teenage mothers become successful entrepreneurs. I've seen high school dropouts become best-selling authors. I've seen people who were written off by society become world changers. I've seen the rejected become the selected. I've seen the discounted become the distinguished. I've seen the overlooked become the overcomers. The difference was never their circumstances. The difference was their consciousness. The difference was their mindset. The difference was their willingness to think differently about themselves, their challenges, and their possibilities. You see, your past does not determine your future unless you let it. Your current situation is not your final destination unless you accept it as such. Your temporary circumstances are not your permanent identity unless you make them so. You have the power to rewrite your story starting today. You have the authority to change your narrative beginning right now. But you have to make a decision. You have to choose whether you're going to remain a chicken or spread your wings as the eagle you were born to be. You have to decide whether you're going to keep living with slave mentality or step into your royal inheritance. You have to determine whether you're going to stay problem-focused or become purpose-driven. And I want to be real with you about something. This transformation won't happen overnight. Changing decades of wrong thinking takes time. Developing new mental habits requires patience and persistence. There will be days when you feel like going back to your old patterns of thought. There will be moments when chicken thinking seems easier than eagle consciousness. But here's what I've learned after 4 decades of teaching these principles. Every person who has ever achieved anything significant had to go through this process of mental transformation. Every successful person had to change their thinking before they could change their results. Every champion had to win the battle in their mind before they could win the battle in their circumstances. The question is not whether you're capable of this transformation. The question is whether you're committed to this transformation. The issue is not whether you have what it takes. The issue is whether you're willing to do what it takes. Are you ready to think differently? Are you prepared to speak differently? Are you willing to act differently? Because when you change your thinking, you change your speaking. When you change your speaking, you change your actions. When you change your actions, you change your habits. When you change your habits, you change your character. When you change your character, you change your destiny. Let me share with you one more story that perfectly illustrates everything we've been talking about, because I want you to see this principle in action one more time. A few years ago, I met a man at one of my conferences who had been homeless for 3 years. This wasn't the man I mentioned at the beginning. This was someone else whose story will blow your mind. He had lost everything in a business deal gone wrong. His partner had betrayed him, taken all their money, and left him with massive debt. He lost his house, his car, his marriage fell apart, and he found himself living on the streets with nothing but the clothes on his back and a heart full of bitterness. For 3 years, he lived under bridges, in homeless shelters, sometimes sleeping in his friend's car when he could find someone willing to help. Every day, he would wake up angry, blaming his former partner, cursing his bad luck, and feeling sorry for himself. He had adopted complete victim mentality. He would tell anyone who would listen how unfair life was, how he got a raw deal, how he was a good man who didn't deserve what happened to him. Then, one day, someone gave him a ticket to one of my conferences. He came in dirty, discouraged, and defeated. But during that message, something shifted in his spirit. He heard these same principles I've been sharing with you today. For the first time in 3 years, he realized he had been giving his power away by blaming others for his situation. He understood that while he couldn't control what his partner had done to him, he could control his response to what had been done to him. He recognized that he had been so focused on his problems that he had completely lost sight of his purpose. He saw that he had been thinking like a slave instead of the king he was created to be. That night in his shelter bed, he made a decision that changed everything. He decided to stop being a victim and start being a victor. He decided to stop focusing on what was wrong with his life and start focusing on what was possible for his future. He decided to take 100% responsibility for his response to his circumstances. The next morning, instead of waking up bitter and angry, he woke up with a declaration on his lips. Instead of cursing his situation, he started blessing his future. Instead of talking about his problems, he started talking about his possibilities. Instead of seeing himself as a homeless victim, he started seeing himself as an entrepreneur in preparation. Within 6 months, he had gotten clean, found temporary housing, and started working odd jobs. But here's the key. He wasn't just working to survive anymore. He was working with purpose. He was saving every penny he could because he had a vision for his future. He was learning everything he could about business because he knew his setback was actually a setup for a comeback. Within a year, he had saved enough money to start a small cleaning business. He started with just basic supplies and one commercial account. But his mindset had changed so dramatically that he approached this business differently than he had approached anything in his past. He worked with excellence. He treated every customer like royalty. He went above and beyond in everything he did. Today, just 4 years later, this man owns a cleaning company with over 50 employees and multiple contracts with major corporations. He's not just financially successful. He's become a mentor to other people who have faced similar setbacks. He speaks at homeless shelters and business conferences, sharing his story of transformation. But here's what I want you to understand. His circumstances didn't change first. His consciousness changed first. His external world didn't transform first. His internal world transformed first. His situation didn't shift first. His perspective shifted first. And when his thinking changed, everything else had to follow. The same power that transformed that homeless man's life is available to transform your life. The same principles that took him from the streets to success can take you from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. The same mindset that made him unstoppable can make you unstoppable. But it starts with a decision. It starts with you looking in the mirror and saying, I refuse to stay where I am. I refuse to accept limitation. I refuse to live below my privileges. I am an eagle, and I was born to soar. I am royalty, and I was created to reign. I have a purpose, and I will fulfill it regardless of what it takes. You see, unstoppable people don't wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions. They don't wait for opportunities. They create opportunities. They don't wait for motivation. They create momentum. They don't wait for others to believe in them. They believe in themselves so strongly that others have no choice but to take notice. Unstoppable people understand that success is not a destination you arrive at. It's a mindset you carry with you everywhere you go. It's not something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you. It's not about having the right circumstances. It's about having the right consciousness. And let me tell you what happens when you truly embrace this unstoppable mindset. First, your confidence levels will skyrocket, but not because you feel better about yourself. Your confidence will increase because you'll start thinking correctly about yourself. You'll stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes things will work out and start seeing yourself as someone who makes things work out. Second, your problem-solving abilities will multiply exponentially. Instead of being overwhelmed by challenges, you'll become excited by them because you'll see them as opportunities to grow, to learn, to develop new skills, to discover new strengths. Problems will become your playground instead of your prison. Third, your influence with others will expand dramatically. People are naturally drawn to individuals who think differently, who respond differently to adversity, who maintain their peace in the midst of storms. Your new mindset will make you a magnet for opportunities, relationships, and resources. Fourth, your results will improve in every area of life. Your finances will improve because you'll think like someone who creates wealth instead of someone who just gets by. Your relationships will improve because you'll attract people who match your new level of thinking. Your health will improve because you'll take better care of the temple that houses your royal consciousness. Fifth, your sense of purpose and fulfillment will deepen beyond anything you've ever experienced. When you're no longer living as a victim of circumstances, but as a victor over circumstances. When you're no longer just surviving, but thriving. When you're no longer just existing, but excelling. Life takes on a completely different meaning. But I need to be honest with you about something else. Not everyone is going to understand this transformation in you. Some people are comfortable with the old version of you because it made them feel better about staying stuck themselves. Some people will try to pull you back into chicken thinking because they're not ready to spread their own wings. You might have family members who say, don't get your hopes up, don't think too big. People like us don't do things like that. You might have friends who say, you're changing. You're not the same person anymore. And you know what? They're right. You're not the same person anymore, and you never should be again. When you start thinking like an eagle, chickens become uncomfortable around you. When you start speaking like royalty, peasants don't understand your language. When you start acting like someone with purpose, people who are just surviving will question your motives. But don't let their discomfort dictate your destiny. Don't let their limitations become your limitations. Don't let their fear infect your faith. Don't let their chicken consciousness pull you back into the chicken coop. You've tasted flight. You've experienced soaring. You can never be satisfied with scratching in the dirt again. Instead, become an inspiration to them. Show them by your example what's possible when someone changes their mindset. Demonstrate through your transformation what happens when an eagle stops living like a chicken. Prove through your results what occurs when someone thinks correctly about themselves and their potential. And here's something beautiful that will happen. As you continue to grow, as you continue to soar, as you continue to live out your purpose, you're going to encounter other eagles. You're going to connect with other people who think like royalty. You're going to attract others who are purpose-driven and ownership-minded. You're going to find your tribe. You're going to discover your community. You're going to build relationships with people who celebrate your success instead of tolerating it, who encourage your growth instead of questioning it, who support your dreams instead of diminishing them. These relationships will become fuel for your continued transformation. Iron sharpens iron, and eagles fly together. When you surround yourself with others who think like you think, dream like you dream, and believe like you believe, your potential multiplies exponentially. Now, as we come toward the end of our time together, I want to leave you with 3 final thoughts that will help you maintain this unstoppable mindset for the rest of your life. First, remember that your mindset is like a garden. What you plant in it will grow. If you plant thoughts of limitation, you'll harvest limitation. If you plant thoughts of possibility, you'll harvest possibility. If you plant thoughts of failure, you'll harvest failure. If you plant thoughts of success, you'll harvest success. You are the gardener of your mind. Choose your seeds carefully. Second, understand that your mindset is like a muscle. The more you exercise it with correct thinking, the stronger it becomes. The more you challenge it with bigger dreams, the more it expands. The more you feed it with truth about who you are, the more it operates from that truth. Don't let your mental muscles atrophy. Keep exercising them daily with the practices I've given you. Third, realize that your mindset is like a magnet. It attracts circumstances, opportunities, and relationships that match its frequency. When you think small, you attract small results. When you think big, you attract big possibilities. When you think like a victim, you attract victim experiences. When you think like a victor, you attract victory experiences. My friend, let me leave you with this truth that I want to echo in your heart for the rest of your life. You were not created to be average. You were designed for dominance, fashioned for fulfillment, and born to be unstoppable. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not here by chance. You are here by divine design with a divine purpose for a divine destiny. The mindset that makes you unstoppable isn't about thinking positive thoughts, although positive thinking is important. It's about thinking correctly about who you are, why you're here, and what you're capable of achieving. It's about seeing yourself as the king or queen you were born to be, focusing on your purpose rather than your problems, and taking full ownership of your response to everything that happens in your life. That man I told you about at the very beginning, the one who went from homeless drug addict to millionaire entrepreneur, he didn't get a lucky break. He didn't win the lottery. He didn't have someone give him money. He simply changed his mindset from victim to victor, from chicken to eagle, from problem-focused to purpose-driven. And the same transformation that happened for him is available for you right now, right here, in this very moment. But transformation requires a decision. It demands a commitment. It calls for consistency. You can't just think about these principles. You have to live these principles. You can't just agree with these concepts. You have to apply these concepts. You can't just be inspired by these ideas. You have to be transformed by these ideas. So I want you to say this with me right now, and I want you to say it with conviction, with power, with absolute certainty. Say it like you mean it. Say it like you believe it. Say it like your life depends on it, because it does. I am not a chicken. I am an eagle. I was born to soar, created to conquer, and designed to dominate every challenge that comes my way. My problems are not my prison. They are my platform. My setbacks are not my endings. They are my beginnings. My past is not my prison. It is my preparation. My purpose is bigger than my pain. My destiny is greater than my difficulties, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what God has ordained for my life. Say it again. I am not a victim of my circumstances. I am a victor over my circumstances. I am not limited by my current reality. I am empowered by my unlimited potential. I am not defined by where I've been. I am destined for where I'm going. I think like royalty, speak like royalty, act like royalty, because I am royalty. One more time. I refuse to live below my privileges. I refuse to think smaller than my purpose. I refuse to accept anything less than God's best for my life. I am unstoppable because my God is unstoppable. I am unshakable because my foundation is unshakable. I am unmovable because my purpose is unmovable. Today is the first day of the rest of my transformed life. If this message has resonated with your spirit, if you felt something shift inside you today, if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are ready to stop living like a chicken and start soaring like the eagle you were born to be, then I want you to do 3 things for me right now. First, hit that subscribe button, because we are going to continue this journey of transformation together. I have so much more wisdom to share with you, so many more principles that will help you live out your purpose, so many more strategies that will help you become everything you were created to be. Don't miss a single message because each one builds on the last one. Second, give this video a thumbs up if it spoke to your heart, if it challenged your thinking, if it inspired you to see yourself differently. Your thumbs up tells me that this message hit its target and it helps other people find this content who need to hear these same truths that have transformed your perspective today. And third, drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one area of your life where you're ready to stop thinking like a chicken and start soaring like the eagle you were born to be? Is it your finances, your relationships, your career, your health, your spiritual life, your personal growth? I read every single comment, and your breakthrough might just encourage someone else to step into their destiny. Remember, you were born for this moment. You were created for this transformation. You were designed for this breakthrough. The only thing that has been holding you back is the way you've been thinking about yourself and your situation. But that changes today. That changes right now. That changes with your very next thought. You are unstoppable because the God who lives in you is unstoppable. You are unbeatable because the power that works through you is unbeatable. You are unlimited because the potential that resides in you is unlimited. Now go out there and show the world what happens when an eagle finally realizes it's not a chicken. Soar high, my friend. Soar high.